In other news, we're following breaking developments out of Iran. State media there are reporting that one person is dead and 14 are injured after an explosion at a southern port of Bandar Abbas on the Strait of Hormuz. Hormuz is one of the world's most critical shipping corridors, and Bandar Abbas is home to Iran's most important container port. Officials say they think the explosion was caused by a gas leak, but it was one of two explosions in Iran this morning that has Iranians on edge amid rising tensions between Tehran and Washington. U.S. warships are positioned nearby as U.S. President Donald Trump intensifies his threats of military strikes, and Iran is conducting live-fire military drills in the Strait of Hormuz this weekend. CBC's Julia Chapman is following the developments from London.
We have been tracking two explosions that have been reported by Iranian local media. The first, as you mentioned, in Bandar Abbas, significant especially because of its location on the coastal area of Iran, on the Strait of Hormuz, which is home to rising tensions at the moment. We do understand there has been one fatality and 14 others injured in an explosion at an 8-story building, more than one of those stories being badly damaged, according to the pictures that we've been seeing. There had been a suggestion that there had been a targeting of a naval commander in that building. Local media are denying that. They say that it is categorically false. It is the home of the Revolutionary Guard's naval base in southern Iran. But of course, as you say, it's also a very important shipping port. But as we understand now, this was likely being caused by a gas explosion, according to the local fire service. A similar situation in Avaz, further west in Iran, where officials there say 4 people have been killed. They are also putting that down to a gas explosion. But against the backdrop of the rising tensions in the region, certainly this was one we were watching very closely.
What can you tell us about those military drills that Iran has been conducting in the area this weekend?
Well, Iran, in a radio message to mariners in the Strait of Hormuz, announced that it would be carrying out live fire drills on Sunday and Monday. It had released some coordinates that extend beyond Iran's territorial waters into that shipping channel, which is so essential to the global oil trade. Around a fifth of the world's seaborne oil is moved through that passage. It is a bit of a choke point. And every time we see tensions there, certainly there is an impact on the oil price. And we saw it last year with the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. There's been a warning from the U.S. Central Command that these drills should be carried out safely and professionally. And if they aren't, then that could increase the risk of collision, escalation, and destabilization. It comes, of course, as there has been a buildup of U.S. military hardware and personnel in the region in the nearby Arabian Sea as Donald Trump threatens to carry out attacks on Iran.
CBC's Julia Chapman in London. And we've also learned in just the last few moments, a top Iranian security official says a structure for negotiations between the United States and Iran is in the process of being set up. So we'll continue to track that part of the story for you. But let's dive deeper into the information that we do have. And for that, we turn to David Roches. He is with Thayer Marshall Institute that provides analysis on Middle East, NATO, and U.S. national security. He's joining us from Washington. David, always nice to see you. Thanks so much for making time.
Thank you.
David, let's talk about, there's so much that's happening so quickly, but these explosions, let's begin with that. The Iranian affiliated media is reporting that these were caused by gas leaks. But considering the amount of tensions and this type of military ramping up we've seen in the region right now, how are you interpreting today's events?
I think it's always easy to overlook the fact that bad things can happen even in times of heightened tension. There can still be natural disasters. And, given the rather decrepit state of Iran's infrastructure after decades of sanction and misrule by the Revolutionary Guard regime, it's not surprising that you have these occurrences fairly regularly. If it does turn out that there was, say, an IRGC Navy commander in the house in Bandar Abbas, I'll change my opinion. But I think the easiest explanation right now is the most logical one.
So let's talk about how we're seeing this buildup of military action between both Tehran and Washington. Washington has sent over a massive military fleet. They're present. The American president is also threatening to take action. And on the Iranian side, they're carrying out these fire drills. Is there a legitimate possibility here that we're going to see military action between these two parties?
Absolutely. I think that President Trump, unless he gets a deal, he probably will take some action, because he said he was going to take action back when the protest happened, and then realized that he just didn't have the assets in the region. So I think he needs to, given the way that he operates, I don't think he wants to be accused of saying he would support people rising against the Iranian regime and then not doing anything. The question is when, how, and what. And I think that what we'll probably see is around the new moon, when there's no moonlight, and then there'll be a period of probing Iranian defenses to determine what their air defense network is like, and then it's possible, probable, I would say, that there'll be strikes against Iran's air defense network, their missile production facilities, and any undestroyed nuclear weapons capabilities, unless a deal is achieved. And Trump does want to have a deal rather than military action.
How likely is a deal with this regime and this president when you can't? Yeah. The word is lack of reliability, I think, maybe, between these two parties. And the tensions are so high. I mean, are you putting a lot of stock in these constructive negotiations?
Reported constructive negotiations. Right. No, I mean, whenever you start off, it's always, the first talk is always about what are our future talks going to be like. It's talks about talks. Those generally go well. But we have a couple of brick walls facing each other. Should Iran have the capability to do enrichment, or should it not? That's seen as a red line by both sides. And honestly, I don't think the regime will give up on enrichment unless it is forced to. The question is, how brittle is the regime? The protests that the regime squelched, first off, they were squelched with unprecedented violence in a very, very violent authoritarian state. And secondly, they exposed the economic fragility, which is getting worse and worse. So it's possible something may happen, but at the moment, I would give it less than a 10% chance.
Let me ask you about, you've touched on it a bit, what is happening within Iran, these incredible protests that took place again, the sense of, okay, maybe this time it'll be different and maybe there will be regime change. And again, at least for the time being, nothing has happened. And there's a lot of dialogue around what the president's goal is here. Is this about deterring any type of nuclear attack by Iran? Is this about regime change? Is this about supporting Iranians? Or is this just another Venezuela where after Maduro was captured, he was quite transparent, this is about getting to the oil. So how are you interpreting all of this?
Yeah, well, with Maduro getting to the oil, that I think is to satisfy his base. As you saw, the American oil companies don't want to bid on Venezuelan oil. It's not economical. Here, I think that he views, and I think that many Iranians view, regime change as something that supports the Iranian people. The Revolutionary Guard has basically mounted a slow motion coup since 2009. I think Trump's theory of victory is that if economic pressure is turned up, then the Revolutionary Guard, which controls 45% by some estimates of the Iranian economy, they will turn on each other, and the regime will fall, or the current Revolutionary Guard leadership will be replaced with somebody that they can do business with. One thing that Trump does not want is to impose regime change by military force. That is what he ran against. He sees that as the George W. Bush model, which he sees as unsustainable and detracting from American interests. So I think he wants to turn up the heat. Economic is his prime lever. The military is supporting it. And of course, a big part of this is, unfortunately, I think he made some statements at the height of the protests that he just didn't have the military capacity to back up. So there is an element of making good on what could be portrayed as an abandoned promise.
David Roches, always good to speak with you, sir. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights.
It's an honor.